Thank you for joining me for lesson 8 of my B1 course, which is for intermediate level learners or for those of you with an IELTS score of around 4. Today's lesson is about numbers, money, dates, phone numbers, statistics, how you say them, how you write them, and the big numbers and little ones that cause a lot of problems in all foreign languages, not just in English. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you find it useful. Let's have a look at the first task together. Now, what you have to do here is you can see that there are 2 different numbers. So number 1, 15% or 50%. I'm going to say the number and I want you to write down which number you hear. So do you hear 15% or 50%? Okay? Sorry, I have to look down at my notes. Here we go. Okay, number 1, 50%. Number 2, 13,085. 3, 1.2 billion. Number 4, 14 degrees centigrade. Number 5, 1,025 square kilometers. Number 6, 8.5, and number 7, 4.32. Okay, so I've said those quite quickly. You might want to pause the recording and go back and listen again, or let's have a look at what I actually said. Here come the answers. Ready? Task 1 answers. Number 1, 50%. Number 2, 13,085. 3, 1.2 billion. 4, 14 degrees centigrade. 5, 1,025 square kilometers. 6, 8.5. And 7, 4.32. How did you do? That's good. I always find numbers quite difficult in a foreign language, also because they're said at speed. If you're listening to the radio or perhaps following the news or something, or a program like that, numbers are said very quickly, particularly the big ones. So it's good to have some practice of them at any level. Let's have a look at the second task, shall we? Now, often the spoken form in English of the numbers is different from the written form. So let's have a little bit of practice here. For those of you who are doing an IELTS exam or an English written exam, like one of the Cambridge suite, then you will need to be able to write the numbers out in full. So this is practice for you. Here we go. Write these numbers in full. Number 1, 55%. Number 2, 25, 12, 2017. Number 3, 120 kilometers an hour. Number 4, 250,000 pounds. Number 5, 33 degrees centigrade. Number 6, 6.5. Number 7, 10 million. Number 8, 20 square meters. And number 9, 1.8. So pause the recording there if you need to, because obviously the written form takes a lot more time to do, doesn't it? Even for English people, English speakers get these wrong. Here we go, let's have a look. Here's the answers to task 2, and there they are written out in their full forms. I think the things that I would point out are, if you look at number 1, the 55, there is a dash, which we call a hyphen, between the 50 and the 5, 55. And like also look at number 2, the 25th of December. The spelling of fifth causes a lot of problems, as does the pronunciation. So listen, the 25th of December 2017. Some people do say 2017, which is also correct, but the more common form is 2017. 120 kilometers per hour. Okay, £250,000. The 33 and number 5 is hyphenated. 6.5. Okay, not 6.5, 6.5. Okay, so there's 4 words there, 6.5. 10 million, 20 square meters, and 1.8. How are you doing so far? Go back and have a look if you need to. Here are some different ways of saying O or naught or 0, okay, depending on where you're from. So the number naught is called naught in British English and 0 in American English. When numbers are said one by one, like a phone number or a bank account number, we pronounce the naught like an O, like the letter O from the alphabet, like O for open. Okay, so the code, the telephone code for calling the UK from abroad is 0044. Some people will say 0044, but I think probably the majority of English speakers from the UK will say 0044. Sports are different. So in football, a score of 3-0 or 3-0 is pronounced 3-0 in soccer, okay? So if you get no points, it's 3-0 in football. And in tennis, it's 15-love. Those of you who are sporty will enjoy that. Okay, so a bit of practice for you now. I want to think what your phone number is in English, please. You need to say each number separately, okay? So you need to say, for example, 07588 321 321, for example. Okay, and that's just the number I have made up. It's not my phone number, so please don't try and call me on it. Okay, and what about your bank number? Your bank account number? Why don't you practice saying that? Or maybe your ID card number or your driving license number, and you have to pronounce every letter. Don't join them up. Okay, so say every letter separately and remember to use O. Got it? Brilliant. Okay, task 4 is called Numbers and Statistics, and I've got a list of numbers here. 1 equals 1.32, 218,000, 1.8, 63 million, and 26,600. And I want you, please, to match the numbers to the following sentences, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so which number do you think represents the UK population? The UK population. Okay, number 2, the average UK house price. Okay, so that means how much does it cost to buy a house in the UK on average? So not in London, not in Scotland, but in the country as a whole, all the houses, all added up and divided to get the average UK house price. How much does it cost to buy a house in the UK? Number 3, the average full-time salary in the UK. Okay, so what money do they get for work? Number 4, the average number of children per family in the UK. And number 5, the current exchange rate between the sterling and the dollar, the US dollar. Okay, so you've got the numbers 1 equals 1.32, 218,000, 1.8, 63 million and 27,600. Match those numbers to the words. Okay, and when you've done that, let's have a look at the answers together. Here we go. So, at the time of writing, the UK population is 63 million people. The average UK house price is £218,000. The average full-time salary in the UK is £27,600. Obviously, that changes depending on your job. So if you work in London, in the city, in the finance, in money, then you'll obviously earn a much bigger salary. But if, for example, you are a nurse or a teacher working in the country, you earn a smaller salary. So this is the average full-time salary, £27,600. Number 4, the average number of children per family in the UK is 1.8. So I have 2 children, so I'm slightly above the average. Okay, most people have between 1 or 2 children per family, 1.8. And 5, the current exchange rate between the sterling and the dollar is £1 sterling is currently worth $1.32. Okay, what else can we do with numbers? Talking about numbers without being exact, so talking about things in a more approximate way, as guessing, saying about, nearly, that kind of language is very popular when describing numbers because maybe we don't know the exact number. Okay, so I thought I'd give you some practice here. Task 5 I'm calling talking about numbers without being exact. Match the phrases A to F with those that have the same meaning in 1 to 6. Okay, so you can see in 1 to 6, I hope, that we've got a phrase in bold. So we've got a little less than a week in number 1, in number 2, approximately 15 minutes, in number 3, little more than a week, and number 4, about 14 or 15, in number 5, in our mid-40s, and number 6 in their late 70s. And you've got to choose which phrases and A to F have the same meaning. So I'm going to read you the sentence, number 1, and I want you to decide what a little less than a week, which one means the same in A, B, C, D, E, or F. Is that okay? Here we go. Number 1, I waited a little less than a week for him to call me. I waited a little less than a week for him to call me. So does that mean elderly, middle-aged? That doesn't work, does it? In his teens, around a quarter of an hour, almost a week, or a week or so. Two, it takes me approximately 15 minutes to drive my kids to school. A, B, C, D, E, or F. Number 3, I waited a little more than a week to hear about the job. Number 4, my best friend's son is about 14 or 15. Number 5, my husband and I are in our mid-40s. And number 6, my parents are in their late 70s. Okay, you can pause the recording there if you want a little more time. If not, let's go through it together. I waited a little less than a week for him to call me. E, almost a week is a little less than a week. So maybe 6 days, not 7. Yep, so number 1 is E. Number 2, it takes me approximately 15 minutes to drive my kids to school, is D, around a quarter of an hour. Number 3, I waited a little more than a week to hear about the job. A little more than a week is F, a week or so, maybe 8 or 9 days. Number 4, my best friend's son is about 14 or 15. That is C, he's in his teens. Perhaps you recognise teens for 14, 15. He's a teenager. Yep, he's in his teens. My husband and I, number 5, I'll start again. My husband and I are in our mid-40s. Okay, so my husband and I are middle-aged. B. We're not young and we're not old, we're middle-aged. Terrible. But I'm still happy and having fun. That's important. Number 6, my parents are in their late 70s. So, for example, my dad is 78, my stepmom is 76. They are in their late 70s. They are A, elderly. And that's a word that you can use to describe people that are old. The elderly. I'm sure you've come across that before. Okay, let's talk about you now. And there are the answers actually. Number 1, E, almost a week. 2, D, around a quarter of an hour. F, a week or so. C, in his teens. B, middle-aged. And 6, elderly. The final task is a discussion task about you. And the way that I would like these to work is that I ask you the question and you pause the recording and you answer it so that it is true for you. Okay, some of you may want to make notes about the answer, which is absolutely fine. Others will just want to answer the question straight away, which is also fine. Whichever way is best for you. Excuse me. Okay, number 1. What's the population of your country? So in the UK, remember, it was 63 million. What's the population of your country? What's the population of your capital city? Number 2, how much does the average home cost to buy in your country? Remember, in the UK, the average home was £218,000. How much does the average home cost to buy in your country? Do you know? You might have to check Wikipedia. Number 3, how much is the average full-time salary where you live? In the UK, it was £27,600. How much is the average full-time salary where you live? Number 4, what's the average number of children per family in your country? Here in the UK, it's 1.8. Is it more or less where you live? What's the exchange rate between sterling and your currency? So in the practice exercise, £1 sterling was worth $1.32, remember? What's the exchange rate between sterling, pound sterling, and your currency? Number 6, how much does a flight to the UK from your country cost? How much does a flight to the UK from your country cost? Number 7, how many people are there where you work or study? How many people are there where you work or study? So in your office, in your company, in your shop, or in your class. And finally, number 8, how long does it take you to get to work? How long does it take you in time? Hopefully minutes rather than hours. How long does it take you to get to work? Those questions mean it's the end of lesson 8. I hope you enjoyed it. Why don't you try and test yourself on the numbers now? You should be able to find that at the end of this lesson. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you for lesson 9. Thanks again. Bye.